Good day, everyone. First of all, the recent MEPC 83 meeting held in London under the auspices of the International Maritime Organization was a pivotal event for the maritime sector, marking decisive progress toward global decarbonization and regulatory transformation. Today, we are gathered here to reflect on the outcomes of this critical session, examine the implications of the new regulations, and understand their operational and strategic impact on our industry. We are privileged to welcome a highly respected expert in this domain. Captain Shantanu Raje is a seasoned maritime leader with over 27 years of diverse experience in ship command, commercial shipping operations, and sustainability strategy. He began his career at sea in command with Moller Maersk, later holding senior roles in operational efficiency and tanker pool management and at the Scorpio Group. Currently, he serves as a general manager emissions at Geoserve Energy Transport, where he leads the decarbonization and regulatory compliance across CIA, EU, ETS, Fuel EU, Maritime, and prepares the company for upcoming IMO frameworks such as the GHG fuel intensity standard, and alumnus of the Indian School of Business, NW Kent College, and the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. Captain Raja is a passionate about leading global terms, crafting forward-thinking sustainability strategies, and delivering long-term value to stakeholders in the evolving energy and logistic ecosystem. In today's session, we will unpack the key decisions of MEPC 83 and discuss how these developments will shape our industry's future. My name is Murat Bakal, and I will be your moderator. I encourage everyone to participate actively with your questions and comments to enrich this important conversation. Without further delay, let's begin our session with Captain Raja. Welcome, Mr. Raja, again. Here's your turn. You can go with your presentation, please.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Dr. Murat, for introducing me. And I hope you can see my screen.
Yeah, I hear you very well.
Okay, yeah. So thank you for having me here. And I really appreciate the opportunity from KOSDER for us at Geoserve to represent them. So we're quite thrilled actually to join, and we at Geoserve, we focus on providing integrated commercial voyage management solutions with the aim of achieving decarbonization goals for our clients. So let's move on to the main topic of discussion out here, navigating the MEPC 83. We know this has been latest regulation update that has come from IMO, and it's an exciting one. Let's deep dive into it. So, are we truly ready for the MEPC 83 framework? And when I say ready, are we ready in terms of commercially, technologically, as well as operationally? Are we looking at from that angle? An important question on the mind of most of the stakeholders out here. So let's deep dive into the topic and find out where we are in terms of the readiness. So let me start with a glimpse of the highlights of MEPC 83. We all know that there has been a short-term and a medium-term GHG reduction measure that has come out. Let's take a look at the short-term measure first. So for the short-term GHG reduction, IMO came out with the CII, the SEAMP, and the EXI revisions to start with. Now, what happens on the CII? So if you remember, the CII came in 2023, And they agreed that from 2027 onwards, the actual reduction in the percentage will be decided later. The targets were not yet finalized. Now, what we see in the MEPC 83, that the targets have been finalized for 27 to 2030, starting with 13.625 to 21.5%. Now, this is not a very complex calculation. It is just where we want to be in 2030 divided by the 4 years. And that means you need to increase the reduction by 2.625% instead of the 2% annually, which was earlier. What will be the impact of this? Yes, there will be some stringent measures which the CII will form. Vessels with a rating which is D might go into E. So that is required that this stringent measures from 2027 needs to be calculated and factored in the voyage calculations. Additionally, we have a change in the DCS database on the accessibility of it. Earlier, it was suggested that the accessibility was not so clear. So IMO has gone out and made it more accessible so that it can be used for operational and technological reasons. Additionally, there has been a definition of underway, which has been clarified to be from full ahead sea passage to end of sea passage. That's a normal commercial term used. And finally, for the EEXI, there has been more revisions about sea trials, how one can do in order to manage the EDI and EEXI regulations. So this is on the short-term measure which has come out. There is more details on the CII which is expected. We hope that in the next MEPC, those will be taken related to the correction factors which are in place for now. Now to the big one, the IMO greenhouse gas fuel intensity framework. Now, this is a midterm measure that has come out for GHG reduction. We have seen enough commentary from all sides of the industry, so it's important that we deep dive into this important element. So there is two measures. One is the technical and one is the economic measure, which is coming out from the IMO GFI. Let's look at the applicability. It applies for ships more than 5,000 GRT, excluding the FPSOs and the rigs. It also deals with well-to-wake GFI intensity. There are compliance levels which are set up. There is a reference compliance level which leads out to up from 2008. And we've got a tier 2 base target, a tier 1 stricter direct target. Vessels either will be who are on fossil fuels will be above the base target, whereas vessels which use some emission control technologies will come down between the tier 2 and the tier 1 targets. We will go in deeper into them in our next slide. There are some penalty measurements that have been given here. For the base target, it's $380 per ton CO2 equivalent, whereas for the direct target, it's $100 per ton equivalent. Finally, if a vessel does use sustainable and zero carbon fuels, they may find themselves with surplus targets. And in that case, that can be used for monetization purposes or for transferring to the tier 2. We will go deep dive into it just in a little while. Let's take a look at the regulatory framework on when is this going to be adopted. So at the moment, IMO has decided that in the next MEPC, which is going to be in October, this particular measures will be finalized and negotiated and finally adopted, subject to 2/3 of the majority agreeing for it. What does IMO deal with the surplus units? What is the revenue going to be used for? So we foresee that there is going to be an IMO net zero fund that has been decided. IMO expects that there will be a fund, a revenue of about $10 to $15 billion received from the sale of remedial units, which in turn are the compliance units that the vessels will need to buy in order to comply with the IMO GFI. Finally, they will be using this for various climate and sustainability goals that the IMO has in place. There is also an incentive program that the IMO is working on. The intention is to nudge the industry towards ZNZ. The buzzword is zero and near zero fuels. So ships which do achieve a threshold of 19 grams CO2 per equivalent until December 2034 and about 14 grams CO2 per equivalent mg from January 2035 onwards, they will receive incentives for using these fuels. So it's going to be an exciting midterm measure that we see from the IMO, and also a landmark achievement, because to get this GHG reduction across on a global front has been quite a big challenge, and we see this moving in that direction. Now, I want to deep dive further into what exactly is this framework about. So we discussed about the tier 2 deficit, which is also called the base target. This is the first compliance target line where vessels which are assuming on fossil fuels, they will not be complying with them. They will automatically be in this range that they have not yet complied. If a vessel uses sustainable fuels, like even biofuel blends, they will slowly move from this tier to between the tier 1 section. Here, they will be complying with the base target, but not with the tier 1 deficit target, but they will still be en route to their compliance. And finally, the vessels which are on zero fuels or near zero fuels will be generating surplus units. That's what we discussed. Now, what do the vessels do in this case? So the vessels which are on tier 2, they have got two options. Either they buy remedial units from the net zero fund from IMO at $380 per ton, or they can offset their surplus units by buying from these ships which are generating the additional units out here. Now, this can be similar to the Fuel EU regulation, which has come in where surplus units or the compliance balances could be neutralized. And similar to that, even IMO has taken that as a cue. The only major difference is that the surplus units can only be neutralized on a vessel basis and not on a pooling basis. There's no pooling here. They can be neutralized, and only once that the offset can happen. That's for the tier 2 vessels. Now, what happens to the tier 1 vessels? So assumption is that the tier 2 vessels, if they do manage their deficits, they will come into the tier 1. And then there is no offsetting here. The only thing which is possible is to pay again a penalty of $100 per ton CO2 equivalent, which is actually quite less than the above. So the intention of IMO is to nudge vessels to go and come to a more sustainable environment for this kind of an arrangement. Now, additionally, when the vessel who have got surplus units, now what's in for them? The vessels which are having sustainable, which are coming in this area, they will be able to monetize it from the IMO fund directly. Unfortunately, IMO has not yet decided on the price of the surplus units, which we expect to be finalized in the next MEPC meeting. We also expect that this number will be lesser than the $380 and the $100, which has already been advised before. So we'll have to wait for it. One additional item which you will see is there are some figures which are given for the tier 2 and tier 1 deficits. So there are subsequent reduction and stringent measures that will be put from 2030 to 2040, from 8, 30 and 65% for the tier 2, whereas for the tier 1 it will be 21 and 43% up till 2035, and for the year 2040, they have yet to decide, and then they will come out of it. So apart from that, what we have now here is that there are some formulas which have been given by the IMO to calculate the GFI, and that is called the attained GFI intensity. Now, every ship will be undergoing this transformation, that the calculations will be done, and then where the vessel fits will be decided. Let's move on from here to what's going to be the impact of this on shipping. So what we observe is that on the commercial side, definitely we see that there's going to be higher cost for the voyage emissions out here, which in turn means if the cost for the end customer is going to be high, there's going to be some kind of a risk in counterparty as well, because we foresee that owners may need charters to replenish the additional exposure which is there due to the voyages. So there's going to be a risk in the market due to the commercial impact. Additionally, if vessels goes to EU, the thought at the moment is that there could be additional exposure even for the EU ETS and Fuel EU. And IMO addition to that, it becomes a triple exposure which comes in front of them. Even though EU is reviewing this to align with IMO, there could be changes in the trade going to EU because of the high exposure. And finally, investment in sustainable technologies. We foresee that there would be adaptation for biofuels and sustainable fuels when the vessels do take on the IMO GFI impact. Now, let's also take a look at the regulatory impact. We foresee that it's going to be data quality is going to be extremely important. Vessels need to have correct data, clean data, and in addition to that, then going to be a timely reporting required for this element. Finally, the enhancement in sustainability infrastructure would also take place. So what do we mean by this? This means that it's not only the vessels, but their crew, their team ashore, the terminals, everybody, including the bunker suppliers, need to be part of the sustainability infrastructure in order to take on maybe the zero carbon fuels in future. So there's going to be a lot of push towards adoption of these fuels. Finally, I can only say that the major impact is going to be that the vessels which are having high emission exposure could not be seen as a commercially attractive vessel in comparison to a vessel which is having a more minimal impact on the IMO GFI. Now let's take a case and see how this is going to actually impact with some numbers. So we calculated for a fleet of various tanker vessels on an annual basis. We observed that a vessel is, let's say, a small tanker vessel in the Mediterranean. The impact of the GFI and the TC is going to be between $700 and $330 per day. This is going from 28 to 2035. Likewise, for a handy vessel, which is going on a worldwide trade, we would expect from $1,250 to $5,700 in terms of the price and the TCE. Now, how does that translate to a fleet in terms of the percentage? So we took a fleet of about 100 vessels on worldwide trade, approximately 65 to 70% on non-EU voyages and about 30% on EU voyages. And we observe that the impact of the GFI is going to be between 16% to 77% on the bunker price on board. Likewise, if we include the EU impact, it is even higher. It will go from 28 to almost 100%. Now that gives us an idea about how the bunker price per ton is going to play once we start using it on a fleet level. We thought, why wait only on a fleet level? Let's go one step further down and see what impact is going to be on a voyage. Now, this is very interesting. If we go on a voyage, we foresee that the vessel, assuming we picked up a voyage from a port of Aliaga to Venice in the Mediterranean, we foresee that the average cost of fossil fuel followed by fuel EU, ETS, and the GFI will come almost close to $880 per ton. Now, that's for 28. But if you go ahead for 2030 and 2035, this actually transforms to about $1,400. Now, this is a huge hit, and we understand that there are questions related to will the EU align themselves. For that, the EU is going to look into the new regulation from IMO and try and assess within 18 months of the adoption, should they continue or align with the IMO to avoid a double exposure to stakeholders. But for sure, you can see from here that there's going to be a huge impact on the exposure. Now, we know that already stakeholders are using biofuel blend as an option to neutralize fuel EU penalties due to the regulation in the EU. So we thought, let's apply biofuel and see what happens on this particular voyage. So the penalties from 88.80 came down to 837, so about 5% of reduction. Likewise, up till 2035, it comes to about 20% on the reduction. So what it means is that the vessel may neutralize the fuel EU penalty, but in spite of the increase in the biofuel cost, eventually you will still save, because the vessel will also save a little bit on the IMO GFI. Our calculation is that if until 2030, if the vessel complies with the fuel EU by virtue of using biofuels, they will comply with the base target, the tier 2 target of the IMO GFI. But then the DCT, which is the direct target, the tier 1 still remains as a challenge. Now, this will only be neutralized when vessel uses near zero or zero neutral fuels. Over to the other highlights on the MEPC. We've seen the new ECA being proposed, which is the Northeast Atlantic Ocean ECA, which you can see from here, out of here. This is going to be, again, quite a landmark achievement in terms of environmental protection, which essentially means from 2027 onwards, once it is accepted, we foresee that the vessels will need to comply with the 0.1% sulfur limit. Additionally, we also have a particularly sensitive area getting finalized in the MEPC 80 requirements towards the Nazca Bridge Reserve. Now, that's not all. We have additionally some more elements finalized, or at least negotiated for frameworks at the MEPC. These start with the additional greenhouse gases apart from CO2. So for methane and nitrous oxide, the measurement guidelines now are being finalized. Now, this is going to be similar to the EU ETS and Fuel EU, where you had got additional guidelines finalized. So this is going to be used once the frameworks get confirmed. There are some outputs which have been agreed as well. Some of them are still in the framework phase, like the NOx technical code, the use of onboard carbon capture, ballast water management, and the guidance for using biofuel blends, and so on. We would not be in a condition to go in detail on this, but we'll be happy to take any questions which are from the audience on these. Finally, what's going to be the roadmap ahead due to the MEPC 83? We foresee there'll be some challenges. Starts with the adoption, because once it is adopted, then it needs to come in force as well. So we're going to look at some reporting requirements which are quite stringent. We will be also be expected to get the GFI registry account, similar to the EU ETS registry account, which will come in. This will ensure that the surplus units are coordinated and transacted accordingly. Finally, the alignment with the EU ETS and EUMRV, as we discussed, it's still not finalized, but the EU, once they discuss, they will be revised. What's going to be the market readiness for it? The market readiness is going to be quite interesting because it's not only the EU ETS that's going to be playing a part here on the price, but also the fuel EU, the compliance balance prices, as well as the GFI surplus units price. So all these prices are going to take a blend, and the trend which is going to come out is going to decide, is the market ready for this kind of commercial impact? Not to say the least, but emission and performance data management is going to be very, very crucial. We saw the data is the key for this, and so is managing the data, cleaning them, and ensuring the correct data comes out. We expect real-time monitoring to be extremely important, and the industry to move towards data-driven decisions. Last but not the least, the industry readiness for the zero and near zero fuels. Is the industry ready for it? Maybe no at the moment, because we expect at least 15 to 20 million tons of this fuel to be required by 2030 itself. So this is going to be an industry readiness which will be seen. And on the commercial side, for sure, there will be requirement of appropriate terms and clauses so that the various stakeholders, be it owners, time charters, operators, can manage this additional exposure. Now, where does Geoserve come in here? So as Geoserve, we are looking to assist our clients and the industry in various aspects of these challenges, starting with the regulatory emission framework, where we do end-to-end compliance management for not only for CI, UETS, and FUDU, but also for the forthcoming IMO GHG regulation. Additionally, there will also be a commercial management of emissions which will be required. As you can see, the prices are dynamic, and that's where we have an end-to-end EU allowance accounting and procurement tool. Likewise, we also have a fuel EU penalty management system, which will then transition to the IMO GHG settlement management as well. So we at Geoserve will be assisting our clients into commercially managing these challenges which we are foreseen ahead. We have an integrated emissions and performance management platform. So to have a tool and an application which actually syncs with the requirement of real-time monitoring and data-driven decisions is something which we provide to our clients, and we could extend it to the rest of the industry as well. Finally, as the industry gets ready for the zero carbon fuels, we at Geoserve, while we provide biofuels to our clients, we could also be looking at those fuels for procurement and buying, depending on the need of the customer. We have extreme depth in our commercial operations and bunker team, which are experts in CP terms and claims advisories, and that is another element which would be quite beneficial in managing the above challenges. So with this, we should be able to move towards achieving sustainability goals for our clients, and that's what the aim is. It's a dynamic regulation, it's a dynamic challenge, so will the solutions be moving ahead. Just to advise our clients, our emission management solutions, we not only provide commercial end-to-end management solutions, but also regulatory. The Sea Cargo Charter or Poseidon Principles are also one of our elements that we provide, and the emission optimization advisories, which deal with the case-to-case basis. We shared that we have got tools to provide, UETS, Fuel EU. Likewise, IMO GHG will be coming close to it as well. And to end, Geoserve doesn't only stand for emissions or performance management, but we have a whole source of other services, right from emission management, where we do more than 2,000 voyages in the last 2 years for emissions, to performance management, where we have having more than 700 vessels under our portfolio. We are having a GeoConnect service, which deals with DA management. We recently did close to 13,000 DA port calls for our clients. We have our GeoStem bunker buying service, which caters to 1.5 to 1.6 million tons a year for the bunker buying. GeoNext, the latest kid on the block, which deals with the dashboard and analytic solutions for our clients. And finally, GeoVoy, which deals with voyage operations, we already have more than about 50 vessels on water where we are providing them these solutions. So in a nutshell, we provide integrated voyage management solutions for our clients. So with this, I have come close to the end of the discussion about how MEPC regulations are going to come up, and what kind of challenges are expected, impact on the industry, as well as how we at Geoserve can assist. I would look forward to any questions that our panelists have, and take it further. The final intention is still, are we ready for MEPC 83? And in this case, it's a journey that we need to achieve together. Dr. Murat, look forward to any questions that have come from the panelist.
Thank you very much, Shantanu. It was a very amazing presentation. Before we move on to Q&A session, Mr. Ozan and Mr. Erkan will introduce by themselves and their company.
Hello, Mr. Murat. Thank you very much. Shantanu, it was perfect presentation. Thank you very much. We are here to support all clients for all the topics at this presentation. We are working as agent of Geoserve in Turkey. So Mr. Sedat will put our contacts on the Q&A part. So everybody, in case need anytime, please feel free to contact us if you need any support on all of these topics. Thank you very much, Mr. Murat.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ozan, do you want to say anything else?
Yes, just I would like to thank everyone for their participation, and Captain Shantanu for the great presentation, and KOSDER for giving this opportunity to us, and also to you for your moderator assistance. So we will be ready and more than happy if we can assist on any of the topics. So I don't want to get so much time. Thank you very much, everyone.
All right. Thank you very much again. Now we will move on the Q&A session of our program. It will be our pleasure to address your questions together with our guest, Captain Shantanu Raje. Please feel free to share your questions, whether they are technical, regulatory, or strategic. And now some questions already came. Hold on. Yes. There is one question, Mr. Shantanu. Will charterers compensate owners for these additional costs for bio or alternate fuels? How do you see the industry as a whole taking responsibility for these costs?
Well, Dr. Murat, it's a great question, actually, and a very important one, because at the end, the commercial cost of the additional exposure needs to be managed. I foresee that while in EU ETS regulation, it was very clear that the polluter pays principle was there. But for the IMO GHG, while they have not said it specifically, but it is very clear that if the vessel is on time charter, and the fuel which is given is by the charterer, there is a likelihood that the charterer may need to bear the cost of the additional exposure due to the fuel that they provide. However, these need to be very clearly mentioned in the charter party by virtue of clauses agreed in advance between both parties. They need to be balanced in nature so that either party do not face undue pressure of the additional cost. And that's how we see this panning out, at least in the time charter situation. For a voyage charter, it is likely that by virtue of specific clauses, owners and charterers could agree on balancing the cost by adjusting in the freight. And this is how would be the direct impact of this that we see to start with. Our experience has been that the industry adapts to these additional costs as the voyages start taking shape. So to start, we have the clauses to be agreed, and later they will be aligned as per the IMO GHG regulation picks up.
Thank you very much for your response. I'm actually wondering something. It's going to be my own questions. Why is MEPC 83 causing so much momentum in the shipping industry?
Yeah, I mean, MEPC 83 has been one of the landmark achievements, actually, because this is the first time that there has been a framework agreed for globalizing the GHG reduction measure. So the midterm measure has been, in fact, the most important one, because this, once it is agreed by and adopted in October later in the year, this is going to transform the complete industry. As we saw from some of our case studies, the percentage of exposure would increase anything between 16 to 17% to more than 100% on the cost. So that's the main reason why this is going to be a landmark achievement. Additionally, it makes the industry move towards not only sustainable fuels, but zero carbon fuels to align with the IMO strategy of net zero by 2050. So this is the first time that IMO has used strict measures, as well as they have penalties in place for non-compliance, which was not the case before. Be it CII or be it other regulations, there was no penalties assigned for not complying, but now we know that there is for MEPC 83. So that's the reason why it is causing such a big attention in the industry.
So what are the key similarities between IMO net zero framework and fuel EU regulations?
Again, a very pertinent question. So you can consider IMO GFI as the global cousin of the fuel EU regulation, because both have got some similarities related to that they nudge the industry into using sustainable fuels. They use well-to-wake emission factors. The life cycle analysis is well-to-wake in both cases. Also, they have got GHG intensity targets. For in terms of methodology, they are a little different, but they still have the same overview that intensity targets are designed. They also have a way of compensating the deficit vessels with the surplus vessels by adjusting the surplus units with the deficit units. So these are some of the key similarities between Fuel EU and the IMO GFI. But maybe just for the audience, there is also a couple of important differences which we mentioned in our presentation, that the surplus units, though the price has not been decided yet, but when they will be, you could only transfer the surplus unit once in a year to avoid any kind of trading of the surplus units, which was not the case in Fuel EU, as well as the banking can be done within 2 years only. And finally, there is no pooling mechanism yet for the IMO GFI, which in the case for Fuel EU, there is a pooling mechanism. So that's how I see the differences and the similarities between the two.
All right. Why is the ship responsible entirely in IMO GFI and not the ship owner or ISM company?
Well, it's Dr. Murad, it's still early days, and we do see that the ship getting responsibility because IMO would like to enforce this regulation through port set controls. And when it's coming to port set control, they will be looking for the ship to start with. However, since the existing DCS reporting has the technical manager and the DOC holder responsible, we foresee that there would be an indication that the tech manager would need to take the role of submitting the necessary reports as well as the necessary compliance units to the IMO with respect to the end of the year. So the final responsibility may come to the tech manager through the vessel, and that remains to be seen once it is finalized in the next MEPC.
All right, thank you very much. There is a questions from a participant, Gökhan Ergüneş. For a fleet on worldwide trade, thus complying with fuel EU regulations also results in the IMO GFI compliance.
What we foresee is to start with the fuel EU regulation is more stringent, at least in the year 2028. Until 2030, if you comply with the fuel EU regulation, there is a very high chance that you will comply with the base target of IMO GFI as well. However, after 2030, the IMO GFI would become more stringent. So complying with the base target of IMO GFI would be needed for any further compliance of the fuel EU. Now, this is one area where we think the Fuel EU Commission would take note of this alignment and plan and align their strategies and regulations so that they are on the same level as IMO. So to start with, Fuel EU is important until 2030, and after that, it's IMO GFI.
All right. I also would like to know, we observe different percent reductions in GFI for tier 1 and tier 2. Is there a relationship between them?
Yeah, I mean, okay. We saw that there is different percentages of reduction for both the tier 2 and tier 1. So while they are different in percentages, if you see, they do follow a parallel path. So irrespective of what percentages they have, there will always be a constant approximately 12 to 12.3% of difference between the two. So the trajectories, while they do go down, they do not merge. They still maintain the parallel of 12 to 12.3% of difference. So that's what the relation we have received. And this is directly with respect to the target GFI intensities for both tiers that has been decided by IMO. So 12.3% would be the difference throughout. That's the relation between them.
Thank you very much. It's a nice response. Anyway, there's another questions. How does the IMO GFI regulation impact the adoption of biofuels?
Yeah, I mean, this is a kind of an open to the industry question. Adoption of biofuels, which is right now happening for fuel EU, is dependent on the quality, the price, and the availability of biofuels. These are the three elements which is going to be deciding how biofuels are going to be adopted for fuel EU. And understanding that for IMO GFI also, the biofuels would assist at least in taking the vessel from a tier 2 to a tier 1 level. We foresee that given these three elements in favor of the buyer, the adoption will be accelerated, especially if the price is less than the remedial unit price of $380 per ton CO2. So as long as the price is lesser than that, we foresee biofuel adoption to be accelerated in the IMO GFI.
Thank you very much. Are we expecting a response from EU authorities due to overlapping exposures, EU ETS, fuel EU, and IMO GFI?
Yeah, we've gone through this during our discussion, but maybe we can reiterate that yes, there would, as per the regulation, the European Commission is expected under the article of the EU directive need to review their regulation within 18 months of the IMO's adoption of the IMO GFI, because IMO is a global regulation to avoid additional taxation to the user. They should not be unnecessarily penalized. So I am so ETS both regulations will be reviewed, and I believe they are being done right away, and we expect a commentary from EU in the next EU ETS will change because it's a little different regulation. But for a fuel EU, there could be some alignment which could take place.
Thank you. There is another question. Why still early? But how do owners and charterers manage additional emissions exposure due to GFI?
Yeah, I mean, again, this is extremely valid, and we foresee that both owners and charterers, especially who have the foresight to go on long-term charters, which are going to start or at least reach the 2028 levels in the year, they will start using various type of clauses or commercial terms so that they can cover each other's exposure with the additional IMO GFI coming into place. I think the moment IMO gets confirms the adoption and they come into force, there will be possibly BIMCO coming out with a clause, and likewise charterers will have their own clauses to support. So managing the exposure is going to be an extremely important element of for both owners and charterers, and they need to be balanced so that the frameworks are fine for each other. That's how I see it. Charterers may additionally use the type of fuel that they want to give, be it zero carbon fuels or biofuels, to reduce their penalties. But then in that case, they again will need to be an understanding between owners what the vessel can burn and is it safe for the engines. There's going to be a technical and a commercial understanding which will be required for managing these fuels. That's how I see it.
Thank you very much again. I think all questions are done. The last questions is going to be from me. How crucial will be the role of data management for regulatory and commercial compliance?
Data, we all know, is the new gold, and it is extremely important that the correct data which comes not only from the vessel but also is aligned to the various consumers, be it EU ETS, be it IMO GFI or Fuel EU, because not only is the final regulatory requirement of correct data is important, but also as per the final numbers on the regulatory reports, the economic settlement will also depend on that. So if you have, let's say, 1,000 units mentioned on your report for the year, you will need to manage the 1,000 units either from your charters or for your own self. So data is going to be extremely important going ahead.
Right. This was the last questions. Dear participants, today's session provided us with a valuable opportunity to explore the key agenda points of the MEPC 83 meeting and to examine the technical and operational implications of the newly adopted decisions. I would like to extend our sincere gratitude to our distinguished guest, Captain Shantanu Raja, for sharing his insightful perspectives on critical issues such as CII, EU, ETS, Fuel EU, Maritime, and the upcoming IMO regulatory framework. His kindness on implementing decarbonization strategies, adopting alternative fuels, and navigating new compliance standards has been truly enlightening for all of us. I would also like to express our appreciation to KOSDER Amatörleri ve İşletmecileri Derneği for their continued support and contribution for this meaningful event. We firmly believe that events like this play a crucial role in enhancing our collaborations and progress toward more you all for participation and attention. Thank you. We look forward to seeing you again in our future discussions. Until then, wishing you all safe voyages and continued success. Thank you very much once again, Mr. Shantanu and Kaptan Erkan and Ozan. Do you want to say anything else, Kaptan Erkan and Ozan?
Thank you very much, Mr. Murat. Thank you, Shantanu. It was a very nice session, and thanks to KOSDER to giving this chance to everybody. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for participation.
What about Ozan?
Thanks everyone for participation, and thanks Captain Shantanu, thanks Mr. Murat and KOSDER Academy. Thank you very much. Have a nice day ahead. Hope to see you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Much appreciated the time. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was an amazing meeting, amazing event. I think we will continue with other events like this.
Sure.
Have a good one, everyone.
Thank you very much, the KOSDER team, Mr. Murat, and so is Captain Erkan and Mr. Karsan. We are privileged to be here, and our contact details are there. In case there are any more questions, we can take it later. And we look forward to engaging with the rest of the industry on the various solutions that Geoserve can provide. Happy to help and be part of the sustainability journey for each and every client with this. Thank you very much. All the best. Thank you.
All the best to you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.